Hey guys, so here I'm going to talk to you all about shoes. And this is a potentially loaded topic because there are a lot of different paradigms out there as to what a shoe is supposed to be or not supposed to be, and whether or not we as a species are supposed to be wearing shoes at all to begin with. So what I'm going to try to help with is cut through some of that confusion and give you some parameters to start looking at shoes as a tool and allow you to select the shoe wear that's going to be helpful for you based on yourself and the activities that you're going to take on. It's a lot simpler than it's made out to be. So let's get the whole barefoot thing out of the way. The statement that we could probably use and fall back on very accurately would be barefoot is best. Yes, but only on natural surfaces and with an individual that's able to effectively interact with those natural surfaces. So what does that mean? Well, barefoot is best. That is the way that we were designed to walk around. But we evolved to walk around on a varying, non-uniform, constantly changing surface. We are used to having all sorts of things pressing up into the bottoms of our feet and it never quite really being the same. So when the uniform, flat, sterile surfaces of modern day enters into our lives, it's actually confusing for a brain. It doesn't get all the different feedback through your feet, through your body that it evolved to constantly work with. It's like a sensory deprivation chamber. It's unnerving. We get fans in order to create white noise to manage the indoor spaces that we have created. And just the same thing, a shoe is there to bring the earth up into our feet when we're on that confusing, modern, uniform surface. So barefoot, yes, is best. However, just on a natural surface, like a lawn, like a forest floor, like the beach, that sort of thing. So I already alluded to one use of the shoe, and that's to bring the earth to your foot. But there are a lot of weird shoes out there that actually make things less stable. They actually make it more confusing for a brain as it's trying to bring the earth to the foot. So what do we want to look for in a shoe? Well, a shoe is there to make your life more comfortable and safer. It is no different than work gloves. And in fact, if you were to look at shoe wear the same way that you would look at gloves, work gloves, that would clear a lot of the confusion. With a glove, you're looking for protection from perhaps the environment or perhaps the surface that you're going to be working with. If it's either too hot or too cold or too rough and you're at risk of getting blisters, you're looking for protection with that. But the protection can't be so thick that you lose dexterity and then you can't do whatever task that you're going to take on. And alongside that, there are some tasks that, well, you really need to have your bare hands, like playing a guitar or any instrument. You're going to need your bare hands in order for that to work. So gloves probably isn't an option in that situation. And well, I know it's 10 degrees outside and you'd like that concert, but maybe not today. So with shoe wear, it's the same thing. We're looking for protection from the hot. We're looking for protection from the cold, and we're also looking for some sort of surface, some sort of earth surface being brought up into our feet. So what I'm going to give you are some parameters for when you look for a shoe and you try it on. How can you be sure that it's going to be helpful for you and not actually set you backwards? It's all fairly common sense. Number one, your shoes should be comfortable. They should not hurt. There should be no pressure points. There should be no uncomfortable places that you're just going to try to get your body used to it and ease on into. You should put them on and you like them. Number two, you should feel steadier because it's a sensory aid and these confusing, flat, uniform surfaces. It brings the earth up. So more of your foot is then touching the earth because the shoes brought the earth up to it. So you should feel steadier on a single leg. Squatting down should feel easier. Lunging should feel easier in a good, useful pair of shoes. And besides that, it's then based on you yourself moving around with whatever activity you're looking to take on. If you were playing a field sport, a multi-directional one like lacrosse or soccer, you're gonna need cleats. You're gonna need to be able to really dig in to the lawn, to the grass, and to the turf in order to stop and change direction. So those shoes are gonna need to be extra stiff so you don't rip them apart as you're stopping, moving laterally. And it's gonna need some sort of a cleat, some sort of spike at the bottom of it in order to grip the earth. But those aren't gonna work well going for a jog. So you're getting the picture as it is activity specific as much as it is individual specific with the comfort, with the way it touches your foot. So some take-homes would be helpful for you to then work with. And I'm gonna offer any of you a PDF of this listed out. So if you're looking for that information in a more organized way, instead of having to play this back a few times, just send me a private message, send me a DM after viewing this, and I'll be happily send a PDF your way that just lists this out. So when you go shopping for shoes, it's pretty simple, some things that you want to look for before you even try them on. And trying them on really is the best test. So number one thing that you're going to want to look for is it's fairly flat. It can have a little bit of some thickness to it. This is a running shoe, so if you're going to be doing distance running, especially on pavement, not necessarily on trail, but on pavement, you're going to want a little bit of squish. And all of you know that anyway, because if you wear bare, minimalist shoes on pavement and run for a few miles, you just find yourself wandering through the grass anyway. So not a ton, maybe a little bit. But the big thing is, besides it's not all souped up, is when you squeeze the heel, this part is called the heel counter, it's got some firmness to it. We don't want it floppy. You want it really firm. The reason that is hugely important is that when you lace the shoes up, if you do not have a firm heel counter, then it's not going to have a good purchase on the rear of your foot, and it's going to slip around, and it won't be useful. So before you even bother trying on a shoe, squeeze the heel, and if it doesn't have some resistance, it kind of collapses, no bueno, don't even bother. A great example of a shoe that doesn't have a lot of a heel counter is this. There's really not much to it. So you can lace this up all you want, but your feet are gonna have to claw because it's not gonna be attached very firm at the heel, and you're gonna have to grip a little bit more with the other part of your foot just to keep it on. So not helpful. And with that, when you look at sandals, unless there is some sort of rear strap, this is a pair of my wife's, thank you, honey. Unless it's got this heel strap, it's not gonna serve you. If you have just a thong sandal and an open back, you're gonna have to waddle walk. So clogs and thong sandals, you're gonna be walking funny just to keep them on. So favor any open toe shoe wear that has a heel strap, and any closed toe shoe wear, it's gotta be a very firm heel counter. Now, besides that, you don't really want to be able to collapse it too easy. So you give a little bit of a twist back and forth, and it's got some stiffness. You can bet that if I can move this shoe back and forth like that, a quick move with your full body weight going into one leg to stop you moving sideways is going to move it a lot more. So some give is good, but too much give is dangerous. And it's actually unstable. So something like this, where you can really fold it on up, too loose, too unstable, it won't be reliable as a shoe. So those are some very basic examples. Firm heel counter, or with an open toe shoe, a heel strap. When it comes to just the overall shoe itself, not too much to it, so it can have some cushioning, and that's helpful depending on the activity, like say distance walking or being on your feet for a very long period of time on a flat surface, if you work in a hospital setting, for example, or if you're going to be walking for a long period on pavement, that kind of thing. And then in terms of any other parts to it, you squeeze that heel, make sure it's got some firmness to it before you even bother trying it on. And like I said earlier, you put them on, number one, they're comfortable. You like them. Nothing is painful, no pressure points. And number two, you can stand on one leg more easily. You can squat and lunge around more easily. It feels nice. Then look at them. Don't bother looking at them and deciding whether you think they're cute until then, because fashion's really not that big of a deal. And if you think it is, just remember mullets. They were a really big deal at one time. They looked awesome. fashion. So that's some advice that I have about shoes. If you want that again in any written form, just reach on out, private message, DM, and I'm happy to send you a PDF with some of that listed out. Regardless, I hope you're all well. Talk to you soon.